Welcome to what show is this again? I always say that. Welcome to
Malcolm Presents Conversations with Deborah. And I am Deborah Manning, and my co-host is Malcolm Berman. We've known each other, my Lord Almighty, it must have been at least 20 years plus. He used to be my producer on a great call-in program called Real Money with my late husband, Tom.
Actually, I want to talk to you about that. What I want to do is maybe do like a 10-minute segment of each show on the market.
Terrific.
And so like before we end at the 20-minute mark, we have a half-hour show. At the 20-minute mark, I'll say, okay, what's the future of the market, or how did it do this week? Because we record this on a Friday, even though you can hear this at any time.
Absolutely.
And then
happy Passover, my dear. This is Good Friday.
Yeah, it's a Good Friday. It's both at the same time. Why do I think I asked you this once, and I'm not sure the answer. I found out. Why do they call it Good Friday?
You know, I actually have the answer to this because
if Jesus was crucified.
Well, I actually have the answer for this. It wasn't the fact they don't call it Good Friday for the fact that he was crucified. They call it Good Friday for the fact that on Sunday he rose from the dead, and there was good news on Friday. So why they don't do it is they do it Easter on Sunday, and they have Good Friday on Friday, unfortunately, the day that he was crucified. But as it all works out, it was the miracle that started Christianity.
But we knew he was going to rise.
Yes, and you know what's also very interesting? My late husband, Tom, was a preacher's kid, and he always wanted to get me involved in the church and what have you. And I was, church, no, what have you. But at any rate, he got me interested in the church, and we went into to be baptized. Of course, I was baptized as a child, and it was funny because part of the lessons, the studies in terms of baptismal for this particular church, you had to go in for studies, and that was fine. And of course, here, I had to ask the question, well, why don't you allow more women involved in this church? Because as I recall, it was 3 women who discovered the miracle of Jesus Christ rising from the dead. And there was this stunned silence, and everybody turned around and looked at me and went, who is she? Sorry, but it's true.
Do we want her in our church?
I know.
The question.
I know. So of course I was the one, as they were doing the tithings, I would nudge to Tom and I say, hey, got some money for the kitty?
I always knew you were Jewish.
Oh, I tell you.
You trace
Go ahead.
You trace your heritage. You probably come back from the Middle East, and as a Sephardic Jew, you're tall and you're bright. I'm prejudiced.
Well, my late husband, Tom, was always honored with the fact that you made him an honorary Jew. He always talked about that. Said, this is wonderful, because his father was a holy roller preacher. So to be called an honorary Jew was just lovely.
I remember when I was dating, and there was a correlate, and I have always dated. Well, after my 20s, I've always dated someone out of the Jewish religion. And someone sent me a card that says, when you're in love, the world is Jewish.
Yep.
But anyway,
so
for all those celebrating everything out there, it's, happy Passover, as I say, Azisen Pesach.
Yes.
Happy Easter. And do you have Ramadan? Is that a happy holiday?
I don't know. I'm not of that religion, so I really don't know. Please, somebody contact us at malcolmpresents.com and let us know, because we are open to education here. So,
well, if someone is good, I don't care what religion it is. The problem is that more evil is done in the name of religion. Which, to just a thing that I heard this week, someone was talking. I forget what it was, but they said, about the Supreme Court justice. They shouldn't have any politics in it. Like religious groups don't have any politics in it. And I was saying, what religious groups do you know that doesn't have politics?
Well, I think what should have been said was that we need to use the Constitution as the basis for the law.
Right.
It's held up pretty doggone well. And there's been certainly amendments to it to make it even better. But I think that's probably a better way of saying.
Well, I know I'm going to get a lot of results. The thing that they shouldn't have done is let women vote.
Oh,
I mean, they're too logical, and
well, I'll tell you, it's going to be an interesting midterm that's going to be coming up. We'll talk a little bit about politics, and then we'll get into more interesting things. But unfortunately, President Biden's approval letters has hit the poll numbers. He's down to 33%, according to an ABC Wall Street Journal poll. And that's obviously of tremendous concern. And of course, he did a speech I think it was yesterday, and he turned and outstroked his hand to basically nobody after he turned from the podium. And I feel terribly sorry for him, but you know what? I feel even more sorry for us. We need strength. We need a strong leader, and especially now.
we need youth. I'm down on both parties. I think we talked about it last week. I'm not a
Yeah, we did.
I'm not a Democrat. I'm not an
Yeah.
independent. I'm an independent thinker.
Yeah.
I hate when both parties are running. It's sort of like it's almost a herd mentality.
Mhm.
It's not herd immunity, it's herd mentality. If you're Republicans, you vote the way the Republicans do. If you're a Democrat, you work the way the Democrats do. If you're an independent, you don't like both of them.
Yeah.
The thing is, nobody is an individual thinker. Nobody can express their own thoughts.
Well, I think that we're really coming to a tremendous comeuppance here for all of us. Malcolm and I started this program to be able to see what we had in terms of commonality. As a news reporter, I report on the facts. And when I was in the business in Los Angeles, and also with Cap Cities and with PBS and with National Public Radio before they went woke, I was trained to present both sides of the story so that the viewer, the audience, could make a decision. That's what we're trying to do here. Is we're trying to find some common ground in terms of common values. And I think there's a lot to be said. Now, I tend to be independent, obviously, but I tend more towards the conservative side. And I hate to say that would be the Republican side, because at sometimes I shake my head in disbelief with some of the things that the Republicans are saying. But you on the other side are more towards a liberal side of things. Although, as you mentioned, you are fiscally conservative, which I think these days is a good thing to be. So. But it's been interesting to see how things are very much changing. I do believe that more and more individuals, in fact, the people that I'm here in Greenville, South Carolina, native Californian, but here in Greenville, South Carolina, we have quite a mix of Republicans and Democrats and independents. And what I'm finding, because I get out and about quite a bit, is that more and more people are getting sick to death with the Democratic line. They're getting sick to death with the Republican line, exactly what we're talking about. And they want to come together as Americans, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, any of those things. And it's so incumbent that we come and we find the common ground, because I'm not looking forward to the Republicans becoming the majority party per se, although I must say that with the Democrats being in the majority, we just don't seem to be getting the common sense that we need.
Right, but when you hear dumb things like McCarthy saying, "Well, and when we get control of the House, we're going to impeach Biden." I mean,
That's nonsense. That's nonsense.
I know, but he is the head of the Republican Party, and he's saying it. He wants to be Speaker of the House.
Well, you know what? You know what? His constituents will say, "Fongul to you." It's not going to happen. That's not what we do. I mean,
I don't know, but it's like I get so tied up, and I get so tied up with corruption. It's not corruption only on the Republicans. Corruption's on the Democrats. I mean, I don't know. I tend to doubt the thing with Hunter Biden, but there are certain things which are don't make any sense. But then with the Republicans, there's so many different things. And then with in New York with the I forget with the assistant governor or a lieutenant governor who was just
Yeah.
Indicted for fraud.
Yeah.
And he's
fraud and bribery. Yeah.
So all of them, it's sort of like power corrupts. You shouldn't give any of them power.
Well, I do think
do.
at this point, but I think, for example, at this point, I've been solicited quite a bit by the Republican Party, and I have given them an earful. I do not want them standing on ceremony. They need to come up with solutions and stop bitching and moaning about the Democrats. Shut up. Come up with solutions. Come up with stuff that's going to help increase the middle class. The middle class is the absolute mother's milk of this democracy. And it's not sitting on your arse and receiving welfare payments and what have you. I mean, all of us were close to getting welfare. For heaven's sakes, I was too, but it's not a permanent thing. The other thing that's been very interesting, you realize that the White House, Jen Psaki, who's the spokesperson for the White House, finally admitted that the inflation was not caused by Putin, as what has been pushed for the last 2 months since the Ukrainian invasion by Russia. But in fact, they're admitting that they overstimulated the economy with the 2020 stimulus package for COVID. They're now admitting they've made a mistake. Now, keep in mind that you know who said that was a mistake? Many of Obama's economic people. Larry Sanders said, "Don't do this." They did it, however.
Yeah, I don't know enough economics really to.
Well, you have me. I'll give you some economics.
What I want to know, what I want to talk to you, what I wanted to mention to you, are giving billions of dollars of weapons to, which I agree with, to Ukraine.
Mhm.
Doesn't that strengthen our economy? Because we have to, number one, a lot of the weapons we have, as far as I know, and what I see of the military, they are oversupplied. They don't have the people or the wherewithal to use all these weapons. So these are all excess weapons, so to speak. We're not taking away really from our arsenal, our usable arsenal. And number two, doesn't that mean that we have to go back to the manufacturers and buy new weapons for the and create jobs, which is sort of like a boost to our economy?
Would make sense to me. I do wish that we would have moved faster on getting weapons to the Ukrainians to keep this fight going. Of course, you hear on Fox News that they figured that Biden had capitulated already to Russia's Putin. I don't know whether I really particularly agree with that. However, actions do speak louder than words. They certainly took their own sweet time. We've been 50 days into the Russian invasion, the war on Ukraine. And some of the pictures you're seeing with the slaughter, not just the killing, it's the slaughter of civilians. It's just unbelievable.
Well, that's why he called it genocide and war crimes, which I think was strong of him. But you know where we made our first mistake with Russia?
What?
Well, we waited to invade Berlin, Germany, until the Russian troops were there. You know that story with World War II?
Yeah. And history has a lot to teach every single one of us.
And if we had invaded, if we had gone into Germany when we were could versus waiting for the Russians to catch up, it would have been a whole different world, because it would never have been the Soviet Union.
It's very interesting, but on, I believe it is Paramount Plus, I decided to do the streaming service for just a bit, and they have what's a series called America in Color. And what they've done is they've taken newsreel footage that is in black and white, and they go through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they have colorized it. It's fascinating to see it in color because it's very interesting, but it's a real interesting view of history. And it shows in the 30s, it shows in the 40s, this whole ramp up, the whole situation that took place after the Depression, and then FDR getting the presidency, and exactly how this all kind of evolved. If you get a chance to watch it, it's certainly worth the $4.95 for the month. I can't recommend it enough because it's fascinating to see, for example, Charles Lindbergh hero, of course, of the Spirit of 76, of seven, the going across the ocean. And it's interesting to listen to the fact that he was very much saying, no, you don't want to participate in this war. And FDR had a heck of a time trying to get us into the war. Of course, what got us into the war was the attack of Pearl Harbor. So,
according to what I gather, that they really knew that the attack was coming. I don't know if they knew it was going to be that devastating, but part of the reason they let the attack come is because this was an excuse for FDR to come into the war, because the war wasn't popular. Because number one, it was all taking place overseas, and gee, it's all across the Pacific Ocean. And number two, who cares about the Jews?
Yeah.
I mean, and supposedly, I don't know, Ryan, I don't know, the exact things, but I know that supposedly Charles Lindbergh was very anti-Semitic.
Yep.
And I don't know what he did particular, but I know that's the version he was. And I know that he wasn't for us to get into the war. And everybody knew what happened to the Holocaust and what was happening to the Jewish and the annihilation of the Jewish race. Because Hitler wasn't silent about it.
He wasn't.
He said everything he was going to do.
Well, we have the same situation with Putin at this point right now, but we do have a group of people in the Ukrainians who are ready, willing, and they've all shown their courage. And once again, get the weapons to them now. The other thing that really we have got to start doing, and you and I agree on the situation with climate change. I want it so that we can get the technology in place. We don't have the technology right now, but we've got to spur it on. But we've got to start getting our energy independence back in place. We've got to, because at this point right now, with the combination of inflation, with the combination with the overdependence of the European Union on Russian oil, which they are still at this point right now paying for, and thus paying for the war on Ukraine. We need to have our independence, period.
Okay, I have a question for you, which I don't know the answer. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a question for you. They're talking about petroleum type of products, that the oils that pollute the air and that's causing the global warming. But they say natural gas doesn't. What is natural gas?
You know what? I don't know. I believe that natural gas is a byproduct of oil. That the natural gas is next to oil fields, but I will do some research on that, and I promise I will get back. I promise I'll get back to you with the exact answer.
Natural gas is supposed to be okay, and oil isn't.
Yeah.
And supposedly we have a lot of natural gas, so I'm not sure.
Do. I know I have a lot of natural gas.
Well, you get more natural gas as we get older. We're going to talk about that as we get older.
Yeah. Well, it's been a crazy week for this household. I know that. My husband, because of COVID, we weren't able to get in to see doctors and blah, blah, blah. And doctors were all concerned about COVID and other things. Well, they missed a very important test. And he went in for a biopsy, and it should have been something that should have been done almost a year and a half ago. I must say that as you're sitting in the waiting room, and I spent my fair time in the waiting room and in the hospital with my late husband, you begin to realize that forget about the fantasies of your life, live the dreams. And I'm writing a book about after my late husband passed away, as to how to reinvent yourself and how to really repurpose your life. I was married to Tom for 33 years, not married, but I was together with him for 33 years, married for 10. And all the books that I read after his passing were just such pablum. They're just such ridiculous solutions. I've now been confronted with a very, very close friend whose husband is very close to passing. And not that she wants my advice, but I felt compelled to offer it in terms of how to cope, because we're all going to be coping. We're all going to be coping with this.
Were you the copers or the coped?
That's it. But I know that that Fish, my husband, is the two of us are talking about this very uncomfortable situation, but it's something that really needs to be breached. So I handle all the money in the household, of course, and so I've said, I'm going to put together a book to be able to, if something happens to me, that you're able to handle things, and there'll be a smooth transition. And for heaven's sakes, please, please make sure that you have a will. Here in South Carolina, it's very interesting. It turns out that if you don't have a will, that in fact, although in California, it's a community property state where if one passes away, everything goes to the surviving spouse. But here, for example, in South Carolina, if one passes away, the remainder goes to the surviving spouse and then is divided. The other half is divided with the surviving children. If you don't want that to happen, then you need to get a will, because obviously the surviving spouse has not only the situation with dealing with the death of the spouse, but also with the economic impact, losing half of the income, whether that be Social Security or pension or actually.
I'm not sure whether if I'm collecting Social Security and I pass away, does my wife get my Social Security even though she's not of retirement age?
Well, what happens is, yes, she'll get survivor benefits. That's what I got, because Tom was of Social Security age, but I got survivor benefits, which unfortunately is only about 50% of what he normally would earn.
Oh.
So you need to.
Did it go up? Does it go up to the regular when you hit 65?
Yeah, it did. So, but
you hit 65? I don't believe it.
Oh, you're so cute. But it's important, and I guess we're kind of broaching now in terms of the money situation. It's important to have these documents and and in writing, so that outside entities, your spouse can be protected. It's so vital. I have to tell you that. So, at any rate, we just finished with our last refinance, pulled out the last of the money. Once again, I'm of the theory I would prefer to have the money rather than the bank have the money. So as a result, that's why I refinanced to the maximum that we could and socked away the cash.
Yeah, right. Well, again, would you have any children or relatives that would want to inherit your house and move to?
No, it's very funny because once again, we have Fish has children in various other states, 3 other different states. And I don't know whether they would want to inherit the house. I would say for them, doggone it, just sell it. Sell it, take the proceeds, and divide the proceeds among yourselves. And that's the way we'll end up doing it as the two of us pass on. But it's important, once again. No, let me ask, do you have a will?
Do I have a will? I don't have a will because I don't have anything that has to be divided. I mean, literally.
How about your favorite chair?
Yeah, anything that that I have, I can just entrust for, because it's mainly banks. It's interesting with furniture. I look at my house, and my house is conglomeration of furniture. It might be some furniture that I love that I bought like 40, 50 years ago when I first moved out here, and I still have some of it.
There you go.
There are other parts of the furniture which are relatives. They say, Malcolm, I don't want this. Do you want it before I throw it out? And it fit in. And the other part, probably a third of it, is where I collected from garbage sites.
Oh, interesting.
It's amazing because especially in California, people put things out on the sidewalk.
There you go.
And even I remember there was a big article. I mean, this is years ago. This is probably 20, 30 years ago. They were talking about Beverly Hills, and Beverly Hills and the part of Beverly Hills, they have, big estates, but in the center of the estates, between the 2 main avenues, they have like these alleys. And supposedly, I forget what day, there was one day of the week that the garbage trucks came in the alleys. So what happened is a lot of people would put out their old furniture in the alleys for the garbage people to pick up. So there are a whole group of people that traveled the alleys the night before to pick up the thrown out furniture. Some of them needed it for themselves. The others the plenty of used furniture places in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
but they had some good things.
You bet.
And
Now,
now I live in
do you
this
have,
complex for the last 12 years
yeah.
that they're probably in like about 50 more, probably 60, 70 units.
Mhm,
And they're fairly well-to-do.
mhm.
And sometimes when people move, I look, they throw things out in the garage area where the trash bins are. And I'll come out to pick up the car and I'll see something that looks good
Mhm.
and I'll pick it up.
You bet.
So my house is sort of like a ecological type of thing. It has a little bit of everything. So to give away furniture, I didn't even know if my boys would want it.
There you go. Do you have a favorite chair or favorite piece of furniture?
Yeah, the TV. I, I have comfortable. I don't know if it's favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no really. Yeah, my couch I have is a sentimental. I have a couch, an armchair, and an ottoman.
There you
That is the
go.
first major things I bought when I was making money.
There you go.
That's about that has sentimental. It's sort of like an old suit that I can't throw out.
That's right. For me, it's I bought. In fact, it was funny because when I was just getting started in the news business, I wasn't really particularly making a lot of money, but I worked with a very fancy, dancy furniture store, and there was a young man that was there that was just getting started. And of course, I admired all of these wonderful pieces of furniture, little settee here and Persian rugs here, and blah blah blah, and all of that. Well, what I ended up doing was putting this all on layaway. So what I would do is I would start my shopping in January and February, and then I would put things on layaway because I knew that I had my tax refund coming in. So I would figure out, okay, so I have $500 or $700 coming with a tax refund. Now, can I go ahead and put this, onto layaway? And it goes, oh, sure, that's fine. So, I mean, I did this for 4 and 5 years. This is how I got most all of my furniture. And I have one favorite piece, which of course is my Persian rug. I was nuts about red, maroon Persian rugs, which I was able to keep along with me. And of course, that is the favorite rug of our littlest cat, Gracie. Gracie is our little gray and white cat that has kind of like a funny Picasso mustache on her. And that is her favorite rug. And we can find her, if we can't find her anyplace, we'll find her all outstretched on this wonderful Persian rug. Only one corner though, but no, that brings back good memories for me.
The things that I have difficulty getting rid of is clothing.
Oh yeah.
Not so much furniture, clothing, because you go into my closet, I have like about 10 suits that I haven't worn probably in 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
I have, dress shirts, a white shirts, a blue shirts, a striped shirts. I have probably like about 3 dozen that I never wear. I have a rack full of ties, which I never wear. I have about 10 pair of shoes, lace shoes, loafers, penny loafers, tassel loafers that I never wear. Right now, I wear sneakers.
Yeah.
I wear sneakers and I wear jeans, which is funny. You're talking about, I was talking to someone, when I was a kid, you never saw a grown man or a woman dressed in blue jeans, or we used to call it dungarees.
That's right.
Yeah,
You're absolutely
if you were over 25, you never wore dungarees.
That's right.
Dungarees was maybe teenagers.
That's right.
And now everyone wears dungarees, no matter what age. You see
That's true.
90-year-old men in dungarees
Yeah.
and
Well,
sneakers.
don't get rid of your beautiful your suits and ties and shoes. Yeah, for example, I have a whole collection. When I also got started in the loan business, I left the reporting business and then went into the home loan business and started working first for World Savings and up in San Francisco. Part of my training, they sent me up to San Francisco, and I discovered some of the beautiful clothes up there. And so I have a collection of just beautiful clothes, which I haven't worn in years and years. But you're right, it has sentimental value for me. And every so often I'll open up the closet, look at it, go, ah.
Yeah, remember when you bought it and how great you feel? Like I have like probably like 4 or 5 suits, which are the old double-breasted suits, double-breasted, large shoulders. The pants are pleated and
Yeah.
and baggy, and it's totally out of style now. It's been out of style for years.
That's
But
right,
it was,
1980s.
at one time, it was considered classic. I mean, like when I was, selling radio, selling TV back in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
I wore those suits. I didn't wear them out, but I had enough to wear them. That's when I had my ties and the shirts. And as I say, for the last 10 years or so, I have never worn anything. And my wife wants me to dump or donate it.
Nah. For me, I can't. I keep all of my St. John knits in a little closet area, and they're all nicely hung up and blah 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 and all of that. And just
The only thing I throw out is underwear and socks.
thank you. I think that's good, and I think your wife Anna was be very appreciative of that.
But anyway, our time is up. You realize
Oh,
that?
geez, you're kidding me.
But as
What
I
is
say,
it with the two of us?
this week, well, you do it anyway, but let's talk about at the end of the show or the beginning of the show, sometime during the show about the stock market.
That sounds good. Well, I can give you a quick rundown at this point right now. Market went down the last couple of days, primarily at this point right now because of the Russian-Ukraine situation. So everybody, please be very careful. Even Microsoft went down, which was very unusual. The idea at this point right now is that the market has already cooked in about a 0.5% increase by the Fed, but the Feds will be coming out with their interest rate increases, and it will definitely impact. It'll impact big tech, and will impact consumer discretionary. So be very interesting.
I have to first admit, I don't understand the market. I know that even during the last few years, that the market went constantly up, even though inflation is there, and the multi-billionaires made more billions of dollars. I mean,
Well,
they
you
didn't suffer.
can too. No, you can too. You can make more, but you have to be very, very selective. And we can talk about that in the next show because there is a way of beating it. There really is.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Okie dokie.
And have a good time at church Sunday. As I remember, like Easter always was which I don't have anymore. But I remember one of my all-time favorite movies back then. I don't like it. I don't care for it now that much anymore. Was the Easter Parade?
Yes, because remember,
Fred Astaire.
All of us little girls would get our shiny black shoes and get a brand new dress. And we also had to have gloves and a hat. So the good old days.
And I love Judy Garland.
Yes, of course.
Anyway, wish you and your family a happy all the holidays.
You too. Good
And I'll
holiday.
see you next Friday.
That sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.